Hi guys, it's Blaize, and this video is something that actually makes me happy. Yay! I mean, it's something that I've accomplished by myself with no help from anybody, that I can say I am proud of myself for this, and it's like the only thing I can actually brag about, because it's like the only thing I've accomplished by myself in life that is worth bragging about, and that is that I am a multi-award-winning poet, and I'm also published. So let's get started. So if you're a Blaizer, and if you're not, subscribe right now to become one. You guys know that when I was about 11 years old is when my panic attack disorder and acute anxiety disorder started getting really out of hand and really bad. I had no outlet, and I was terrified, and I didn't want to even get out of bed, and I could barely make it to school. I missed a half a year in total of school days because I just could not go to school because I was an absolute mess and I couldn't even get out of bed. So one day, when we were living in the apartment that we had to rent, that was just absolutely awful. It was a really stressful time and a really bad time in my life and in my family's life. Sorry, I'm trying to adjust myself a little bit. And my parents were fighting because we were having, problems in the family. And one day I was just laying in bed, and I just was like, just started jotting things down, and I didn't really know it was poetry. I just started writing things, and it was like 2 pages long because I just had so much on my mind. Obviously, you can tell by my videos, I have a lot going on up here, so it takes a long time for me to even tell my stories. So when I was 11 is when I wrote my first actual poem, and I left it on the kitchen table by accident, actually. And I didn't sign it or anything. And my dad came up to my room, and he knocked on my door, and he was holding it in his hand, and he was like, "Did you write this?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was like scared because I thought I was gonna get in trouble. I don't know why. But he was like, "Are you okay? Is everything all right?" And I was like, "No, everything's not okay. I'm not okay." And he's like, "Yeah, I can tell." And he was like, "Are you sure you wrote this?" And I was like, "Yeah, why?" And he was like, "This is really good, like amazing." And he's like, he was just so taken away by it. So he showed my mom, and she was like, "Wow, this is really deep, especially for an 11-year-old. And so when my parents started saying that I was really good and I should start doing this more often, every time I would have anxiety, even in class, I wouldn't be paying attention. I would just be writing poetry. And sometimes it wasn't poetry, it was just little things here and there, little sayings that I made up, or little quotes that I made up that I really liked, and I put together myself. And I still actually do. I've had this journal for absolutely ever. I can't even tell you how long I got this, and it is just filled with words, and obviously you saw when a doctor called me fat, but it's filled with poetry and notes and quotes that I like, and just random stuff. That's like my poetry journal. So over the years of 11 to 13, just turning 13, I was just writing poetry for fun, and it relaxed me, and it was a really good outlet. It was a healthy outlet for what I was going through at the time. So I just wrote it down, and then when I went to my alternative school, the second day of going to my alternative school is when 9/11 happened. And I remember being in school and being in the computer room, and they turned the TV on, and I remember watching it happen. And I started having a panic attack because, obviously. So they took me to the nurse's office. Basically, my dad had to come pick me up, take me home. We could see the smoke in the distance because we lived in New Jersey and it was close by to New York City, and it was just really, really sad and a really, really scary thing because I didn't really understand what was happening. I was 13 years old. So the day after 9/11, the 12th, obviously, I'm sorry, that day is really horrible. Wasn't horrible at the time, but anyway, so I was in class and I was writing and I wrote a poem and I showed my teacher and she almost started crying and she was like, "This is beautiful." And they were going to be having an assembly for all new students, including myself. So we were in the assembly room and she asked if she could keep it so she can make a Xerox copy, and I was like, yeah, sure, that she would give it back to me. And so we were in the assembly for all new kids, who was myself. I've only been there for 3 days, and during the assembly, towards the end, they said, "Will Blaize Morgan," which is my name on social media, but they said my real name, obviously, "Please, can you come up to the front?" And I was like, oh my God, what the hell did I do? I was like so scared. And so I walk up there and they were like, "Can you just read this poem that you just wrote about this?" And I was like, I've never talked in front of people like publicly like that before, and that's really, really scary, and I'm not sure if I want to do it. But something inside me was just like, do it. So I stood up for the first time in front of like 200 plus kids, and I'm reading a poem that I just jotted down really, really fast. And the teachers were looking at me and applauding me, and I was like, this is awesome. I've never had that feeling before. So they had a creative writing teacher named Miss Casey, who I'm actually friends with on Facebook still, who decided to take me, into her class, and I think I was one of 2 or 3 people who actually was in that course. But she was an amazing, amazing writer and artist, and she still is. But she entered me in a contest, a poetry contest. And I was like, oh, that's cool, that's neat. Like I've never had that kind of honor before or whatever. And a couple weeks later, she calls me down to the library where we held our writing classes. And she said, "You won." And I was like, "What do you mean I won?" And she's like, "The contest that we entered, you won." And I was ecstatic. I was in shock. I was like, that's not even a good poem. I was just like, what? Are you kidding me? And then she tells me, what the contest was for and what I get out of it, and that I had to go to this whole ceremony for it. And I was just like, this is insane. And I have a picture somewhere of me and my family at this award ceremony, but it was taken with one of those disposable cameras. And a lot, like I've said in my previous videos, a lot of our pictures since we moved are still in storage, so I can't find that specific picture yet. But that was my first award I ever won, which was the Luna Kaufman Award for creative writing. And as a reward, I got a $50 what do you call them, a bond. That's not even good for like another 10 years, but whatever. But the most prestigious thing in my mind was that they said they were going to be hanging my poem up in the Holocaust Museum in New Jersey. And since I am Jewish and I come from a full Jewish background, there's no other blood in me but Jewish, I was crying because that just made me so proud. And I was like, that is just such an amazing honor. I had ancestors who died in the Holocaust, so I was like, and my parents, they were just so unbelievably, overwhelmingly proud of me, and everybody was just so proud of me, and it was just such an amazing, amazing thing. And one of the girls who died in Columbine's mother. She's like, if you ever heard Flyleaf talk about Cassie, I don't think that's her real name. I forget what her real name is, but her mother actually was the speaker and gave out the award because her daughter was into art and poetry as well. And she's the one who said, you know, she believed in God to the killers and the shooters, and they shot her for it. And they were gonna shoot her anyway. But anyway, so that it was just like so overwhelming, and I'm like, I've never won an award for anything in my life. So this was just a huge, big step for me. So over the next couple years, or year and a half, I had worked day and night on my poetry. I was just committed to this. This was something I loved doing. This was something that I was born to do. I started reading more different poets, and I have actually been asked the question plenty of times, who are my favorite writers? Obviously Edgar Allan Poe. Everybody knows I'm obsessed with Edgar Allan Poe. Lord Byron, Petrarch, Robert Frost are just some of my favorite poetry. Wake up, poets. So, just throwing that in there. But I won little awards here and there. There was nothing like really major. It was just, you know, little things, but still it was major to me because this was something that I did myself and something that I was being acknowledged for, and that made me proud of myself. So let's talk about these awards. When I was, how old was I? 15? 15. Me and a couple other students from the school and thousands of students in New Jersey were in a contest for writing. And they had us in a room, and I was actually going against my best friend at the time, Bill, who I've talked about. It's not his real name, and I think this was one of the reasons why he started to dislike me, because it was pure envy and jealousy. But that's not exactly what got it. That's a different story. Anyway, we were entered into what was called the VSA Art Awards, and I was in there for creative writing. They had a couple of other students that were in there for different medias of art. But it was very special arts, I believe, is what VSA stands for. And if you won and you got picked for this award, you won the biggest award you can win, and that is the Governor's Award for Arts in New Jersey. So if you won this award, you won that award. So they sat us down. They didn't tell us anything beforehand. They gave us a random topic. I don't even remember what the topic was. I think it was, again, 9/11, but or racism or something like that. And we had a certain amount of time to write a poem or something creative writing. And then we had to stop and hand it in. So I went and I did that, and a couple weeks later, I get a letter in the mail, and I open it up, and I'm in my living room, and my dad and my sister were in there. My mom was upstairs taking a nap, and I open it, and it told me that I won, and that I had just won the biggest award you can win for arts in the state of New Jersey. I screamed so loud, "Oh my God, I won!" And my dad was like, "Go tell your mother right now, go tell her." And my sister was like, "Congratulations," you know, even she was happy about it. And so I went upstairs, I woke my mother up, I was screaming, she like was panicking at first. She's like, "What the F, what's going on?" And I told her, I was like, "I won." I showed her the paper where it said, "Congratulations, you know, you won." And I was just like, and she was just sat up in bed and was like, "Oh my God, you won. This is like a huge thing." So if you saw in the photographs before, I look so terrible, but you know, I always look terrible. Not always, but anyway, that's not the point. So I go to the VSA art ceremony and they did not tell me, but I had to get up on this is the picture where you saw on the podium, where I had to read the poem that won it for me out loud. So this was not just in front of 200 students, this was like in front of 2,000 people, strangers. And it was just an amazing event, and they gave me a plaque for it, and we have that plaque. I do not have it at the moment, but I do have pictures of it, so I can show you. And then, you know, they announced that I was going to be going on and winning the medal. I won an award for the governor's award for the arts in New Jersey, which is the biggest, most renowned award you can win in any state in America for arts. And I was just crying, and my grandmother was there, and she loves collecting all my poems from the time I was 11 till now. She makes me email them to her and make me make copies of all these things for her, and she's so supportive of it as well. And it was just so amazing, and I was so touched, and I was just like, I've done this myself. Nobody helped me, nobody, you know, I wasn't partnering with anybody. This is something that I did, and I did so well that I'm being recognized by the state for this. So out of the thousands of students who entered for creative writing, I had won, and I was just going insane with this. I even the next day brought to school the letter, and every teacher was going insane. Like, this was the biggest deal that I could have. And my friend from high school, David, if you can see in the picture, we looked so happy, but we didn't know we were getting our pictures taken for newspapers that day. Our photos were in the newspaper. They told us, you know, they explained everything about it. They interviewed us, and that was just so amazing. So the Governor's Award, this was in front of thousands and thousands of people. David had won for music. He played the Native American flute. So that was the media that he won in. And there was, you know, a huge long ceremony, and I'm sitting there so having a panic attack. I'm so anxious because my whole family's there. It's the biggest. It was in a gigantic theater. So, you know, when they called my name and I came up and I accepted it and they put the medal around me, I was crying because I was like, this is like the biggest deal I've ever had in my life, and I am so unbelievably overwhelmed by this. And it was just an awesome experience and made me cry. Then when I was 15 or 16, my poem called The Crows was published in a book called Celebrate Young Poets of Society. And I don't know if you can actually buy the book. I have it somewhere, but in my room of a mess, I cannot find it. I did read it on my old channel, but I read it really horribly because I'm not that, even though I'm a poet and I'm a writer, not that great at reading. I mean, other than poetry, I'm just whatever. So that was awesome. I was published in a legitimate poetry book, so that was also great because not everybody was fortunate enough to have that done as well. Since I left high school, or graduated high school, they actually had me wear my New Jersey Governor's Award, a medal around my neck during my graduation. I'll show you a picture. So that was really nice and awesome of them to let me show that I've accomplished so much. And like I was saying, since I left high school, I've written a ton of poetry, and better poetry. I mean, when I see people who read my poetry or listen to when I read it and they cry, or they're like in shock, or they're just smiling, any kind of emotion like that, it makes me emotional because I work so hard on this, and this is like, I get, again, something that I do. At first I just did it because it helped relax me and because I had a lot on my mind, and then to go into it kind of professionally, I was just, that was my life. And when you get that, when you get recognized for your artwork, no matter what media it is just so unbelievably touching and so unbelievably great. It's no matter what field you're in, it's something that you do yourself and you see that kind of reaction. I've had people crying over my poetry, I've had people smiling, I've had people left in awe and shock. And like, again, I'm saying I'm only bragging about this because this is the only thing in my life I say I have done 100% by myself, that nobody helped me with, even though I had tons of support, but nobody helped me with. So this was something that I had done that was recognized by America, and it was recognized and something that I did and I succeeded at. Since I left high school, like I said, I've written tons of poems, tons and tons in here, as a matter of fact. But I'd never entered any contests since then, and I've kind of slowed down on my writing as of late because the last text message I sent before my boyfriend died in September was that I started writing again. And I did. I started writing a poem kind of for us, of a poem of Anne Boleyn and Henry VIII. And when I realized that's the last text message he saw, I haven't been able, like, I've tried. I've sat down with a pen and I've tried to write something, but I just can't. I just don't know what to say. And it's, you know, PTSD. Again, I have PTSD from so many things, but I've actually slowed down on the writing as of the last couple years, but I never stop. But I have not won anything or even entered any contests for this. Sorry of my appearance, guys. I know I promised I would never complain about my appearance again, but today's not a good day. As if any day is a good day. But I did want to talk about this because this is something that I get asked a lot. So this was my story about my poetry and my awards that I've won. I've in total won 9 awards for my poetry, 9 major awards. I've won a couple here and there that were not major, that were just, you know, little things on the side. So probably in total like 14, I want to say. But major awards, 9 awards. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below, unless they're nasty and you'll be reported. If you're a writer and you have some experiences you'd like to talk about or anything like that, leave them in the comments. I love reading poetry. It's my favorite thing to read. And follow me on Instagram. It's .blaize. I'll leave my name here and in the description box below. And I will see you guys soon, and stay wicked. Love ya.